The artist I'd like to share with you today is Pedro Linares Lopez, Mexican folk artist and innovator. Pedro Linares was born in 1906 in Mexico City. At the age of 12, like his father and grandfather, Pedro learned how to make and sell cartoneria. Cartoneria is Spanish for paper mache, an art that uses thin paper scraps dipped in paste. The wet paper scraps are layered piece by piece onto a mold to create a shape. Once the adhesive dries, the paper is rigid like hard cardboard and can be painted and decorated. Pedro worked as a cartoneria for many years, making piñatas for birthdays and calaveras for Dia de los Muertos. His work was admired by many famous artists like Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera. In 1936, when Pedro was 30, he came down with an illness that gave him a very high fever. While sick in bed, he had a dream where he went to a magical mountainous forest. There, he saw colorful rocks, trees, plants, and clouds that all suddenly came to life as fantastical creatures that shouted, "Alebrije, alebrije, alebrije." He woke from his dream and told people about the animals he saw. A donkey with butterfly wings, and a rooster with bull horns. He knew he had to share the creatures in his dream with the world and began sculpting the mystical alebrije. The alebrije Pedro made mixed elements of earth, air, fire, and water. Some sculptures would have wings to represent air, fins or gills for water, antlers or horns for earth, and a long tongue and sharp dragon teeth for fire. And no two sculptures looked alike. While most people thought Pedro's new creations were very unusual and even a bit scary, when a documentary was made about Pedro and his alebrije, people began to appreciate his work. It wasn't long before more people began to create their own alebrijes, quickly making them a part of Mexican culture and tradition. In fact, every year in late October, Mexico City hosts an alebrije parade, which features giant alebrije sculptures to honor those fantastical creatures with live bands, clowns, and more. You may have even noticed a few in the Disney movie Coco. Although Pedro has passed on, his children and grandchildren continue the tradition of cartoneria and alebrije to this day. The end. Now it's time to create art inspired by the artist. For this activity, we'll be making masks inspired by Pedro Linares and his alebrije. To get started, you'll need a cup of water, paint brushes, your paint palette, a mask, a paper towel, and a pencil. I will be using a Sharpie so that you can see the details, but I would like for you all to start with a pencil. And using your pencil, we're going to divide the mask up into spaces or sections. First, we'll make a section with the ears like this. And you can draw a squiggly line or a zigzag line. I've done both just to give you some examples. And I'm also going to create a space for the mouth by drawing a line around the mouth and nose line like this. And this looks pretty good to me. I have 4 sections, so I'm going to go ahead and begin painting. And I'm going to start with my flat brush. That brush is going to cover enough area. You're going to wet the brush and then gently dip it into the paint and begin painting your mask, starting with an ear first. And I'm brushing this paint on pretty thinly and just making sure that I'm covering it evenly with color. This is going to help it dry much faster. You may be like, Mrs. Smith, why are we using such small paintbrushes? So that we can pay attention to detail and so that you're not using too much paint. Looks pretty good. I'm not painting the edges of the mask because I would like a spot to hold on to. I'm never going to place the mask down on the table. It's going to be in my left hand because I'm a right-handed painter or writer. So I'm going to hold it with my left hand and paint with my right. So for the second ear, I'm going to choose a different color. And again, painting that on evenly, not using too much. So now I'm going to flip the mask over and begin painting the lower half. And I think it's a good idea to use different colors for each section because if you remember, the Alebrije were very colorful. So I would like to use as many colors as possible. And now that I've finished the lower half of my mask, I know that the ears are dry because I made a nice thin coat of paint on them. So now I'm just going to start adding a little bit of pattern or texture. You can create whatever pattern that you like because remember the Alebrije are combinations of different animals. So if you wanted to maybe do leopard spots on one ear, then I think that that would be a great idea. I think I really like the squiggly line that I did at the bottom of the ear to divide it. So I'm not going to use an animal pattern at all. I'm just going to go rogue and maybe create this squiggly line, maybe make a pattern with that. And notice that every time I'm cleaning off my paintbrush, I'm wiping any excess paint or water off on my paper towel so that I can continue creating details using my fine point brush. So for the bottom half of the mask, I think that I'm going to create fish scales, just painting little scallops. But really you could do whatever pattern that you want, as long as there's a pattern within it and you're having fun and creating dimension. You could do polka dots or stars, whatever you can think of. Just have fun with it. And now I'm going to begin creating a pattern within the main area of my mask. And I would sort of like to use a really light pink. I think I'm going to get extra silly with this one and do a sort of pink cow print pattern on the main part of my mask. And if you want to draw your pattern first with your pencil, if you want to quickly draw it first before painting it, then go for it. I'm just sort of freehanding mine. Now that we have our cow print, I'm loving the way that this looks, but I think I want to make it a little more weird. I want to add a little more color as well. So I'm going to take my fine pointed paintbrush and just maybe add like some fun dots throughout the pattern. I'm pretty happy with this. Now it's done. I hope you all enjoy making your Alebrije masks, and I cannot wait to see what you all come up with. Thank you.